Hello students, this is the master tutorial for the score and parts layout assignment. There will be a separate video for MuseScore users. But we're looking at Gary Lindsay's textbook, pages 33 through 36. That's the music that you see here in the template I've created for you. We only have two instruments that we're worried about here. So hopefully you've read pages 31 and 32. There's some useful information. We're not going to worry about the point where he talks about it being traditional to place clef key time signatures only on the top line of each page for parts. Okay, publishers deal with this in various formats, and sometimes you'll see the key signature extend downward through the page. Often you'll see a clef on every single system. So we're not going to worry about this, and we're going to go with what the program gives us there. However, we're going to do a couple things differently than appear on this rhythm section scoring example, which is a 12-bar blues, by the way. And this is sort of a prelude to our first major project, which is also going to be a 12-bar blues. Now you can see we've got a 4-measure introduction here. There will be a simulated recording of this available either this week or next week for you to listen to and study. But we're going to be inserting a DS at measure 5 here, and we're actually going to change this rehearsal marker to letter A. And part of that is because we're going to go by our project 1 sort of rules here on page 37. And as you can see here, part of your project will be to include an introduction, which we have here, this 4-bar introduction. This is the same instrumentation that you'll be dealing with in your project as well, and the same score order. You'll notice that the score in Lindsay's textbook is in portrait mode. The template has it in landscape mode. Landscape is a very, very common format for score. Parts are always going to be in portrait mode, which is what we'll be doing here next. All right, so we've got a 12-bar blues, and then we've got 12 more bars of the form, starting with a rehearsal letter B, the DS, which is going to take us back to letter A here until we get to our coda jump, which is right here in our roadmap. And then in the case of this Lindsay example, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bars of coda with a hold at the end. Now you don't need to fill in any articulations or dynamics for this example. That's not the emphasis. However, I do want to show you one thing. Sibelius users anyway, in order to create this fermata at the end, what you would do is you would select these measures and you would bring up your keypad and you would jump into your 4th palette and then select the fermata or type 1 on your keypad. So the fermata symbol is actually an articulation in Sibelius. I suggest just starting with the roadmap here, which is going to be a matter of the bar lines, the rehearsal letters, and the form or roadmap text, the DS or to coda, that type of text, for example. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to insert a double bar line here after bar 4. And as you can see, no layout whatsoever has been done on this score. Then the next double bar line is going to appear at the beginning of the solo section, which is right here. And then the final double bar line that we're going to get is right at the end of the solo section after this final chord change. So again, bar line, double, like so. Okay, that takes care of our bar lines. Let's go to rehearsal letters. So we've got measure 5, which in Lindsay's book has the number 5. We're just going to use the letter A there. So it's going to be Command or Control R for rehearsal mark. And then the same thing here at the beginning of the solo section, Control or Command R for the next rehearsal mark. Now we need our roadmap text. So in other words, the sign, the DS indication, to coda, the coda symbol itself, all of that. So let's start just kind of from the beginning here. Our DS is going to be placed at bar 5 or rehearsal letter A. The text that we use for this in Sibelius is text, other system text, and repeat. Now it is also possible to bring up the symbols by using the Z shortcut. The disadvantage is those won't play back, and there's a couple other caveats to doing it this way as well. All right. So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and use the text approach here. And I'm going to click right in that measure 5, and I got a blinking cursor, and now I can right or control click, and there's my sign. Now it's a little bit small, so I'm going to click on it. I'm going to go to my text tab, and I'm going to blow it up just a little bit, like so. All right, the next piece of roadmap information as I'm moving along here is the actual jump to the coda. We don't need the measure 13 rehearsal marker that Gary Lindsay gives us, but we do need this to coda jump. So again, it's the same type of text that we just used a moment ago. So the right click or control click, text, other system text, repeat, click, and then right here at the end of bar 14, I'm going to click, and I'm going to right or control click and select this that says to coda. What I could do at this point is with the cursor flashing, I could just type a space and then right or control click and then select the coda sign like that. And the reason that I've done both of those things, it might seem redundant, but most arrangers prefer doing this because it makes crystal clear the point at which the player needs to jump to the coda. If you just have the text, it almost looks like the player might be able to jump to it, you know, kind of halfway through the measure. But this way, there's absolutely no mistaking where that's going to happen. Sometimes you'll even see something that looks like this. Okay. Moving on, we need to get through our solo section, and this is where that DS al coda actually happens, the end of measure 28. So again, right or control click, text, other system text, that repeat type text, clicking right here at the end of measure 28, and then we've got our DS al coda right there. Okay, I want to be careful. There's that little attachment arrow. We want to make sure that that's pointing to the correct place, that little dashed arrow. All right, so we're not going to do a lot with layout of the score. The parts will benefit probably a little more than the score, but let me zoom out here a little bit. And what's important for us is that we have roughly 4 measures per system, and that we have the right number of stays on the system, neither too many nor too few. So there's a plugin that's really, really helpful, and it's called Make Layout Uniform. So I'm just going to come up to my ribbon right now, and let me show you what it looks like. I just type uniform in, but there it goes. It's plugins, Make Layout Uniform. So this can be really effective. What I first want to do is jump to the document settings. So that's a matter of Command or Control D to bring up document setup. And one thing that bugs me is that by default we get these really, really huge margins in Sibelius. So I like to select, you know, same here. The page size is going to be letter. We're using letter size paper. I mean, a lot of copyists will use A4 or, you know, other sizes of fancy European paper, but we're, you know, 9 times out of 10 we're dealing with letter size paper here in the United States. So we've got, I'm going to select 5 here and 5 over there, give myself a little less in the way of margins, and hit OK. What I'm going to do next here is I'm going to use that plugin I was just telling you about, the Make Layout Uniform plugin. So I select that. I get this dialog, and I've decided that I want to do 3 systems on the first page. It's very common to do fewer systems on the first page than subsequent ones, and that is because of the title. Usually we have that title information as well. So we usually can't fit as much on that first page. So let's say 4 per page after that, 3 on the first page. And it's helpful to have the plugin automatically break its special bar lines. That would be double bar lines or repeat bar lines if we actually had any. So we're going to say OK. And yeah, now things are making a little bit more sense. Okay, in general, you know, we got the 4 bars per system. So from there, you know, we could further optimize some things. I could select everything in the score, Command or Control A, go to the layout, and then there's this selection optimization, and sometimes that helps things out a bit as well. So let's take a look here. There's a couple things I could clean up perhaps. The rehearsal letters in Sibelius can be a pain. Even if I disable magnetic layout, you'll see that there's going to be a collision there. This is kind of a quirk in Sibelius. There's an optional downloadable plugin. Let me show it to you. I'm going to select actually this whole selection because it contains both of those letters. And let me just start typing in rehearsal. It's called Position Rehearsal Marks. It's a great one, but again, it doesn't come stock with Sibelius. So Bob Zawalik has written a lot of these plugin scripts, and I'm just going to hit current score and look at the rehearsal markers now. Yeah, that's a lot more what I would want to see there. Okay. All right, yeah, so now I can actually move those around a little bit. That's a lot better. All right, so things are looking pretty good here in my score. I'm not getting too fancy yet, but everything is pretty good there. I'll bring this to Coda down a little bit. Sometimes, especially on Mac, I've noticed what happens is some of the text off at the top. So sometimes I'll do a PDF preview, so Command or Control F, and then I'll just start looking through the pages here, and yeah, it looks good. It's fine. This last measure looks silly, so I can just click at the very end of that, and we'll get these two little handles, and I'm just going to drag them in like so. Okay? Yeah, at this point, my score is, this is good enough. Let's look at the parts. But they're called dynamic parts in Sibelius. So I'm going to click on this little plus, and you can see there from the parts, you can see that I've got guitar. Okay, so I'm going to select the guitar part, and its benefits somewhat from some of the things I've done, but I know that the paper size is wrong for one thing. So I'm going to go to my layout, document setup, launch browser button, or it could have just Control or Command D, and paper size, we're going to say letter. And again, notice that it's portrait mode for parts. Never use landscape mode for parts. And then for the pages here, same, and again, 5, 5, like that. Now it's bunched things together, but we'll resolve that in a second. So hit OK. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to use that same make layout uniform that I used a few moments ago. So again, the ribbon, I'll just type uniform. Here's the dialog, and I'm going to use 9 systems. There's not going to be a second page. I already know that. So I'm going to say 9 and make sure the break at special bar lines is selected. And that looks pretty good already. I mean, I really didn't have to do anything. This last measure is a little short now, so I might click and drag the handle out that way. I mean, I see one or two things. This Dakota needs to be coming up a little bit. I might try to get rid of that collision with the measure number, like so, right there. But yeah, it's not bad. It's a really good plugin. So what I can do here is actually I can clone this layout to the base part so that I don't have to start from scratch. So now I'm going to go to the plus, and I'm going to come to parts base. Zoom out a little bit. Now I can just clone the layout from the guitar part into the bass part. There's going to be a couple things that'll miss that we'll go over, but what I can do here is I can go to the parts tab, and it's called copy part layout. Click on that, bring up this dialog. The source part here is the guitar, which I've already formatted, and then the destination part is the bass part. So I'm going to hit OK after those selections are made, and yes, I want to copy that layout. It's starting to look good. Now look, the margins look a little silly and wide, so I'm going to come back to that document setup, and notice that it's automatically displaying in letter page size. But here again, the left page is 5, tab 5. Okay. And now we've got a layout that looks really similar to our guitar part. Now one thing I realized that I've missed is the coda sign altogether, right? So I like to take care of these things in the actual score, just to make sure that that they're going to work okay with everything else that's going on. So I'm going to come up here now, repeat DCDS, place that coda sign right here. There it is. Again, I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. Text tab, 1, 2, 3 points roughly larger. Let's see how that looks here on the guitar part now. Now it's very common, in addition to the coda occupying its own system, which it should be in its own system always, it's very common to create a little bit more distance or separation between the coda and the previous system. Okay, so we're going to want to make sure we do that in the guitar part. And then the bass part, same thing. Okay, we're going to just click somewhere on this system, and then we can just drag, and Sibelius will respace all of the staves up above that. All right, so just as before, this measure is a little short. Click and drag the handle out. All right, that's looking pretty good. So now we just need to export our 3 PDFs. So we're going to have our score, our guitar part, and our bass part. So now we're ready to export our 3 PDFs, and in Sibelius, it's really easy. We just go to File, Export, PDF, and we're going to put everything into one file, score and all parts. So let's go ahead and we'll call this Yeah, score and parts. And we'll export this. I'm just exporting it to my desktop. I just want to show you how nice and clean this comes out. So I just open this up, and you'll notice that the formatting is correct. This is all in landscape mode. In other words, these first 3 pages of our score, followed by the 2 really nice, clean, copied parts. All right, that's it. Good luck.